Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, Chapter 19. Beelzebub's Tales about his second descent onto the planet Earth. Beelzebub began thus. I descended upon your planet Earth for the second time, only 11 of their centuries after my first descent there. Shortly after my first descent onto the surface of that planet, the second serious catastrophe occurred to it. But this catastrophe was local in character and did not threaten disaster on a large cosmic scale. During the second serious catastrophe to that planet, the continent Atlantis, which had been the largest continent and the chief place of the being existence of the three-brained beings of that planet during the period of my first descent, was engulfed, together with other large and small terra firmas, within the planet, with all the three-brained beings existing upon it, and also with almost all that they had attained and acquired during many of their preceding centuries. In their place, there then emerged from within the planet other terra firmas which formed other continents and islands, most of which still exist. It was just on the said continent of Atlantis that the city of Samlios was situated, where, do you remember, I once told you that young countryman of ours existed, on whose account my first descent in person took place. During the mentioned second great disaster to that planet, many of the three-brained beings who have taken your fancy survived owing to many and various events, and their now already excessively multiplied posterity descended just from them. By the time of my second descent in person, they had already multiplied so greatly that they were breeding again upon almost all the newly formed terra firmas. And as regards the question of just which causes, ensuing according to law, brought about this excessive multiplication of theirs, you will understand this also in the course of my further tales. You might as well, I think, notice here in connection with this terrestrial catastrophe something about the three-brained beings of our own tribe, namely, why all the beings of our tribe existing on that planet during the mentioned catastrophe escaped the inevitable, what is called, apocalyptic end. They escaped it for the following reasons. I told you once in the course of our previous talks that most of those beings of our tribe who had chosen this planet of yours as their place of existence existed during my first descent chiefly on the continent of Atlantis. It appears that a year before the said catastrophe, our, as she is called, party Pythoness there, when prophesying, asked us all to leave the continent of Atlantis and migrate to another small continent not very far away, where we were to exist on that definite part of its surface she indicated. This small continent was then called Grabontsi, and the part the Pythoness indicated did indeed escape the terrifying perturbation which then occurred to all the other parts of the common presence of that ill-fated planet. In consequence of the said perturbation, this small continent Grabontsi, which exists until now under the name of Africa, became much larger because other terra firmas which emerged from the water spaces of the planet were added to it. So, my boy, the party Pythoness there was able to warn those beings of our tribe who had been obliged to exist on that planet, and thereby to save them, as I've already told you, from the inevitable apocalyptic fate, owing only to one special being property, which, by the way, can be acquired by beings only intentionally, by means of what is called being particdog duty, about which I shall tell you later. I descended in person to the surface of that planet for the second time, for reasons that ensue from the following events. Once, while on the planet Mars, we received an etherogram from the center, announcing the imminent reappearance there on the planet Mars of certain most high sacred individuals, and indeed within half a Martian year, a number of archangels, angels, cherubims, and seraphim did appear there, most of whom had been members of the Most Great Commission, which had already appeared on our planet Mars during the first great catastrophe to that planet of yours. Among those most high sacred individuals, there was again his conformity, the angel, now already archangel, Luisos, of whom, do you remember, I recently told you that during the first great catastrophe to the planet Earth, he had been one of the chief regulators in the matter of averting the consequences of that general cosmic misfortune. So, my boy, the day following the second appearance of the mentioned sacred individuals, his conformity, escorted by one of the seraphim, his second assistant, made his appearance at my house. After Te Deums with me, and after certain inquiries of mine concerning the great center, his conformity then condescended to tell me, among other things, that after the collision of the comet Condor with the planet Earth, he, or other responsible cosmic individuals superintending the affairs of harmonious world existence, had frequently descended to this solar system to observe the actualizing of those measures they had taken in order to avert the consequences of that general cosmic accident. And we descended, his conformity continued, because although we had then taken every possible measure and had assured everybody that everything would be quite all right, we ourselves were nevertheless not categorically convinced that no unexpectedness might occur there unforeseen. Our apprehensions were justified, although, thanks to chance, not in a serious form, that is to say, on a general cosmic scale, since this new catastrophe affected only the planet Earth itself. This second catastrophe to the planet Earth, continued his conformity, occurred owing to the following. When during the first disaster 2 considerable fragments had been separated from this planet, then for certain reasons the what is called center of gravity of the whole of its presence had no time to shift immediately into a corresponding new place, with the result that right until the second catastrophe, this planet had existed with its center of gravity in a wrong position, owing to which its motion during that time was not proportionately harmonious, and there often occurred both within and upon it various commotions and considerable displacements. But it was recently, when the center of gravity of the planet finally shifted to its true center, that the said second catastrophe occurred. But now, added his conformity with a shade of self-satisfaction, the existence of this planet will be quite normal in respect of the common cosmic harmony. This second catastrophe to the planet Earth has finally quite pacified and convinced us also that a catastrophe,